What's up, everyone? Scott Kalura, Jim Vejvoda, here to talk to you about the new upcoming Star Trek series. It will be part of CBS All Access, their streaming service. Nicholas Meyer, who directed Star Trek II and Star Trek VI, is one of the creative forces on the show.
Yep.
The showrunner is Brian Fuller.
From Hannibal.
Hannibal.
Yeah.
That's stellar. Huge Trek fan.
And he used to write for some of the, he wrote for Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager in his early career.
He's coming home, you know?
Yep.
And then Alex Kurtzman, who worked on some of the Abrams reboots. But what we want to talk to you about is the upfronts are this week in New York. Our own Eric Goldman is at them. And they CBS released a teaser trailer, sort of just a logo reel of the new Star Trek logo. However,
there's some hints in
There's
it,
some hints.
right?
There's maybe some Easter eggs in there that gives us, you know, some confirmation of rumors about possibly the timeline in this.
Yeah.
Do you want to give folks a little breakdown of?
First of all, it looks like it's just called Star Trek, which has been a question. Was it going to be called, Star Trek the next generation?
Well, maybe they'll add a colon something afterwards. Star Trek, here we are again.
Yeah.
You know?
I like it just like that, Star Trek. But so there had been a rumor a few weeks ago from Birth Movies Death, I guess the site's called, about it perhaps being set sometime between Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, which was the last movie with the original crew.
And directed by Nicholas Meyer, who's working on this one.
Who's working on this one. Somewhat set between that and the Next Generation era. So that's a big time period. It's about, I guess, 60 to 80 years of Star Trek history that's never really been explored on the screen. So that was the rumor, and now it seems as though maybe it's being confirmed by this teaser, because it's sort of the buzz online today has been that there's a couple of images in the teaser that hint at those time periods. One of them is the Klingon moon. We're going to get real geeky here, so push your glasses back.
Exactly.
But the Klingon moon Praxis, which was destroyed at the beginning of Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, you can see a sort of half-destroyed world in this teaser that they fly past. Point of view of the camera flies past. And then there's another thing that looks like a star, possibly the Armagosa star from Star Trek Generations, which was the first Next Generation movie.
Yeah, the one with Malcolm McDowell where spoiler, they kill off Captain Kirk.
Right, Malcolm McDowell.
Fun, that one.
Right.
Gets crushed by a plank.
Yeah, he falls off a bridge and trickle of blood.
Gangplank, gets him.
So those, it's sort of really in-depth, geeky analysis of the teaser, but it does kind of line up that could be what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely, it to me, it would be an interesting time frame to set it in, but there was also some wording in the teaser that you pointed out to me, is that they say the word like new cruise, not like Tom Cruise or Caribbean Cruise,
right?
But like Enterprise Cruise.
Terry Crews.
Terry Crews. Yeah, it's more. Yeah, it's like Terry Crews. So do you think we're going to be following maybe one Federation crew and one Klingon crew?
Well, it's so if we're picking up after Star Trek VI, there's a lot of Star Trek history in there that is ripe to be mined, right?
Yeah, tell people about like the Enterprise, that there was a new versions of the Enterprise.
So Star Trek VI ends with sort of the beginning of peace between the Federation and the Klingons. The age-old enemies, of course, were the Klingons, and they're starting to work towards peace, which by the time of the Next Generation, we've achieved more or less. We even have a Klingon on the Enterprise. So at the beginning of the next movie, which was the Generations movie, you see this Enterprise B is being launched. It's the new Enterprise without Captain Kirk.
And you see William Shatner, James Doohan, and wasn't it Walter Koenig?
And Walter Koenig come to visit.
Yeah. So it's Kirk, Scotty, and Chekhov. They're old and pretty much retired.
Yeah.
And they're doing the send-off, and then Captain Kirk, basically something happens, is Captain Kirk, said to be Captain Kirk, and looks like he gets sucked out into space, and so he's believed dead then.
Right, yeah.
So however, you flash forward.
And so he eventually winds up in the Next Generation era through technobabble, blah, 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 and then his story ends with
making eggs.
Yeah, his story ends with Captain Picard. But that Enterprise that he disappeared on was captained by a guy named Captain Harriman, and he has a crew, and there's been, like, I believe, novelizations and things about that crew. So
he's played by Cameron from Ferris
Bueller. Yeah, he's just as awkward and nerdy in that. And then there's another Enterprise that from this time period, this sort of 60 to 80 years between those two movies that could also be explored, which is the Enterprise C, which was the next one to come after the B. And it was actually in an episode of The Next Generation, the Enterprise C travels through time and winds up meeting Captain Picard's Enterprise. But because it left its place in history, it altered reality. So Captain Picard and the Federation are still at war with the Klingons. Because it turns out this Enterprise, the C, sacrificed itself saving a Klingon colony, which like preserved the peace treaty or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of different Enterprises that exist during this time period. Although, having said all that, I wonder if they'll even do an Enterprise. If it might
I mean, it could just be another crew, a totally different ship. I think it would be kind of fun if you did pass the baton of the Enterprise and keep it. Because let's face it, I mean, there's a reason why Next Gen and the original series and, you know, the Enterprise. I don't know if outside of fans, if they know like Voyager, the ship, or like, you know, even that there's a Deep Space Nine or whatever.
Right.
You know, I feel like Enterprise is as much a character in Star Trek as.
And you're not stuck. You don't have to have Cameron from Ferris Bueller be the captain of your Enterprise. Like, you know, you know, it could be maybe he comes and hands the ship off to the next crew. Yeah. Another rumor, which also came from Birth Movies Death recently, was that the show is going to have seasonal arcs, and that each season, kind of like American Horror Story, would be more of a seasonal anthology is what I meant to say. And that verbiage that they use in this teaser, new crews, could also apply to that.
Yeah, so just like, you know, this season will fall. So you could actually, technically, you could kind of do a variation on that Enterprise C crew where they, you know, even though we saw it played out in the Next Gen, you could kind of do a variation. I just think it's interesting that the fact that you would pick the moon of Praxis from Undiscovered Country and then
Armagosa,
from Generations, and not from the TV show, but from Generations.
Yeah, it's from the movie.
I mean, those are two things tied to Captain Kirk, and I'm doing this weird thing with my fingers. And, you know, so it does make me wonder, like, could you actually bring back William Shatner, maybe? And, you know, because technically his character is in that, like, the Nether or whatever the hell it was called.
Yeah, the Nexus, Well, he looks so different now. I'm not sure. I think it's maybe more realistic that you might get
Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., de-aging.
That's true. You could do the de-aging CGI on him, I wonder if you're more likely to get some Next Generation people at some point on board. If they are going to go to different time periods each season.
It's great to get Patrick Stewart back.
And you know what? It's not the stigma that it once was either. You know, you have all these things and success stories too. X-Files coming back and things.
Fuller House.
Well, I think they're doing another season on that, right? Yeah. So I mean, these are successful, sort of proven things that you can bring back now. You get Patrick Stewart to come in for a 2-episode guest shot or something.
Yeah, it worked for Nimoy and DeForest Kelley and James Doohan. Yeah. They all came back. I mean, and here's the thing too, if it is an anthology show like American Horror Story and each season is going to be a different crew, guess what? Even for actors who are still like, I don't want to get stuck being on Star Trek, it's a one season run.
Yeah.
It's probably, I'm not even sure how many episodes per season they're aiming for.
Yeah.
But, you know, it could just be, it's a stint, it's a gig, and you move on. You don't have to worry about it. So you can say you did it, and you know now you get to do some signings every now and then when you need a couple $100.
Right. Yeah. You want that beach house? You go to a few conventions and pay it off. So we were also discussing earlier how you could potentially have a couple of core cast members. You have your captain and his second in command or something, and maybe it's more you sort of trace their career through Starfleet. You don't stay on the same in the military. You don't stay in the same position your whole career. So maybe you do
unless you're a crew member of the Enterprise,
right? Unless you're Chekhov, you know. So maybe you do a time jump. Maybe season 2, it's 10 years later, and you're a little closer to the Next Generation history. It freshens things up a bit. You still have a couple of your leads who are maybe in different positions on a different ship or whatever, but you can still follow them, and you're retaining that audience as well, you know, who's coming back to see those actors.
Right.
And then you can bring in guest players and other characters. So there's a lot of potential here. As Spock would say, there are infinite possibilities.
Well, that's fascinating. So we want to hear what you guys think. What do you think of these theories about the Easter egg supposedly in the Star Trek teaser. What would you like to see this new CBS All Access streaming Star Trek show be? We should point out it is not tied to the movies.
Right. Yeah.
We got to point that out. It's kind of apples and oranges.
Yeah, they're basically two different entities. CBS is in charge of the show, Paramount's in charge of the movies. They're two different entities.
Yeah, so I guess think of it kind of like the way the DC movies and the DC TV shows are. But we'll see. It might not be as black and white as that. Anyhow, when you hear what you guys have to think about this, what would you like the Star Trek show to be? Follow us at Jim Vivida, at Scott Kalura for all things Star Trek, sci-fi, movies, everything. Keep it here on IGN.